Pirates and Eagles. It's Crafting with Kari and Cindy time. This month's kit is a take and make pumpkin kit. So we'll be painting pumpkins. I'm going to show you guys what you're going to get with your kits when you pick them up at either Pacific or Driftwood. So in our little bag, we have our instructions on our how-to, sponges, cute little stems for the pumpkins, and then assorted paints. You will receive 2 pumpkins when you pick up your kits, and then you will be able to choose some stencils, various stencils we have, hearts, some cute sayings, pumpkin everything, give thanks, and hello fall. And then there's some backgrounds to choose from. So when you pick up your kits at the schools tomorrow, Wednesday, if it is today, it could be today, you'll be able to pick up all of these goodies, and stay tuned. We'll have Cindy is going to be painting pumpkins and showing us the procedure for that. So thank you. Hi Pirates and Eagles. Cindy's here. She is going to be painting a pumpkin. Now this pumpkin looks a little different than your guys' pumpkins. They were left over from last year. So Cindy has her pumpkin, and she has her paintbrush, and she has her base color for her pumpkin. So the instructions you got, it says paint the top of the wood and the edges with your base coat color. Thin coats are best. After you've painted it, you can use a blow dryer to completely dry it. All right, Cindy, start painting. So guys, this is going to take a long process, so we're going to advance it here really quick. We will restart when she's done. So thin layers, couple layers it takes, and make sure it's well dry. So if it's still a little wet or it's thicker in spots, it's recommended to take a hair dryer to make sure the paint's totally dry before you apply your stencil. So we'll be back in a few minutes, and Cindy will have a completed painted first coat on her pumpkin. All right, Cindy said it's dry. So once the top is completely dry, this is step number 2 in the instructions that come with your kit. Once the top is completely dry, take the stencil and lay it face down on a hard surface and use a credit card or something similar. So you can use, if you have an old student body card, a plastic ruler. The next steps I'm going to actually go over and help Cindy apply the stencil to her pumpkin. So here we go. So Cindy, you'll be able to see through it once I take it off. So the stencil, this is the top of the stencil. You will turn it upside down, take a corner, and you're going to remove the paper from the stencil with the stencil being face down. So that way it doesn't curl. And be careful when you remove your design, because some pieces will stay on the paper. And I can't get that piece, so we're going to rub it a little. So if you have an intricate design, there's little pieces of the stencil that will come up with the paper. That piece is coming up a little. Okay, so we still have little sections of the stencil that are here, so we're just going to have to be very careful, take them off with tweezers and picks, and then apply them. Okay.
Nice. Make sure that you see where the hole is, because that's your top when you put it on. Well, I want it crooked.
You want it crooked?
Oh, probably because of those things you have to leave it straight.
No, I mean you can.
Yeah, you know I don't like things straight.
Okay, so how?
Right there. No, you do it. Right there.
Because then your letters are on there.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so once you do this, there is a thin layer of contact paper on the stencil that you'll have to peel off. So she's gonna...
I'm gonna scrape it and then peel?
Yep, you're gonna scrape it and then we're gonna peel the contact paper off. And I'm gonna get my little...
Okay.
Because she's got she's got E's on here that have little hiccups, so.
Pull this off?
Mm-hmm. That's the contact paper. Okay. There's one.
Mm-hmm.
You get it?
Yes, I don't bite my fingernails.
Hey, I've got a more. Oh, nope, you don't take all that off.
What did I take off?
You took off the stencil. We're just taking the contact paper that's on top of it.
Oh.
Uh-huh. There you go. Can you grab that?
So remember to leave the blue on the wood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of hard to see. So you get this, so you still have this.
I'll take it up. Okay, so now that the stencil has been applied, we'll zoom in on it. So if you choose the pumpkin everything, if it's got little curlicues, and so the middle of the E's and the R and the Y, they're the ones that stuck and did not come up with the contact paper. So you just have to be very careful. Couple attempts. And if you know, if you can't get it to work, you could always sponge it and then take your top coat to put those little drops inside the letters. So what we do is the first coat, Cindy is taking, so you want to sponge lightly with the top coat, the paint color, because that will block the stencil from bleeding underneath. So she's got her sponge and she's going up and down. Just very lightly. So what this does is it blocks, if once you put your color in, it will prevent the darker color bleeding underneath the stencil. Yep, just a little. So you use the paintbrush to paint the big project, and then you use sponges to dab the stencils.
That's gonna be tricky. Okay. Is that enough, you think?
Well, you're gonna add it. She's doing a darker color. That's just the first coat of the sponging. Yep.
Okay. Can I put it here?
Yep. You guys have your paints though and already pre-measured.
Thank goodness.
So yeah, if you guys have paper plates at home, paper towels, help take the excess paint off.
Here we go.
Now
Cindy's do the leaf different color, right?
Cindy's gonna do the leaf a little different color, so we don't want to sponge with the coppery color. All right, so Cindy is done sponging paint on her stencil. She got a little crafty and added 2 colors. So we did step 3, flip the stencil over and place on top of your wood block where you want it. Once you've got it where you want it, use the same utensil that you use to scrape. So rub across the top of the stencil. This is helping secure it to the wood. Once you've done that, slowly start to peel off the clear transfer paper, leaving the blue stencil on the wood. So you can use painter's tape around the edges of the stencil, or just be careful to make sure you're not going over the edge while you're painting. Use the white sponge included in your kit to paint the stencil. Use the same color you painted your board for your first color on the stencil. This will cut down on bleeding. Then go over it with the colors you want to use. You dip the sponge into your paint and then dab it off on a paper plate or paper towel so that there's not very much paint on your sponge. Now dab up and down, don't wipe side to side, in thin coats over the stencil. Cindy did about 3 to 4 coats, and as you can see, she's touching it up a little bit before we remove. So, now we get to remove the stencil. Once you're satisfied with your paint coverage, peel off the stencil while it is still wet. And you could get lucky and it comes off in one sheet, but we may have to pick it to get it all off.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it rips and tears when you take it off.
Didn't tell me that. See, the leaf got messed up.
Yeah, we'll have to play with it. So because Cindy's pumpkin is made out of board, she's got a crevice. Your guys' pumpkins are solid and don't have a crevice. So you can use tweezers or an X-Acto knife to pick out any of the stencil pieces that didn't easily pull off. And tweezers work fine for pulling off the little pieces. So once your stencil is removed, you can use a blow dryer to dry the paint. If there's any bleeding of paint under the stencil, use the color of the paint you used for the base coat to gently fix bleeding spots. You want me to grab my tweezers?
Okay. So you can show them this mess that I made.
Well, that's what happens.
So I'm going to have to try and clean up this mess.
So her crevice had a leaf, but that's easily fixed. It's okay. And now she's taking off. You have to pinch them together to open them.
Okay. Wow, these are weird. Okay, so I have taken all of the stencil off. Make sure after you take the stencil off, you wash your hands really good when you start doing the intricate stuff, because otherwise it'll get on your pumpkin.
And if you can tell, we had to touch up some stuff because if you use too much paint, it gets gloppy, and then when you're trying to take everything off, it gets on your fingers. And
so now I'm gonna blow dry it to dry it completely, and then okay, now we're gonna put the stem on.
So instruction step 5 says once your stencil is removed, you can use a blow dryer to dry the paint. If there's any bleeding of paint under the stencil, use the color of paint you used for the base coat to gently fix bleeding spots. So we fixed the bleeding spots before we dried it. But anyway, all right, finishing touch to the pumpkin.
Voila! Looky there. I made something. Wait, I don't
Cindy's
have the stem. Yes, much better.
Cindy's very happy with her creation. So if this is fine for inside a house, if you're going to put it outside, they recommend staining it or spraying it with a clear coat. Now, last year's class, we had ribbons so you could attach stuff to the stem. We had some flowers you could put on the stem, but they're really cute just the way we are. So, we hope to see some pictures of your guys' creations. Make sure you send them to our emails, carrie.ingdahl@2cj.k12.or.us or cindy.pogwoods@2cj.k12.or.us.
Have fun.
Happy crafting, guys. Paint is dry, if you can figure out how to turn it on before.
Okay, I don't burn my hair.